But so before we wrap up here, you were a DJ. You DJ'd our parties. Do you still DJ?
Yeah.
You still do all that fun stuff? DJ
I
Daddy
still have all
Dorsey?
I still have all my equipment. Think before COVID, I was averaging between 12 to maybe 20 gigs a year, and then COVID hit, and then I joined the Army, and then last year I think I did maybe 5 gigs in 8 months. So, and I realized during COVID, I was like, you know what? I love DJing. I have a great time. I have another gig coming up in a few weeks, but I'm not about the life of losing all of my holidays. I was losing New Year's, like Christmas, like Valentine's Day. I was losing all the holidays, birthdays, weekends were gone. I mean, you knew I was doing DJ gigs 3 days every weekend. I was gone for 13 hours a day. I was like, you know what? That's not the life I want to live. So I'm doing it for fun now. I get some extra cash here and there, and yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing with that. Keep up to date with all my music. And yeah, that's about it that I'm doing with that now.
In the Army, because that was just, I didn't see that one coming. You know, I know you got into acting. I was like, oh, I can see that. Arts guy, trombonist, DJ, artsy fartsy. But the Army, I saw on Facebook, like, the fuck? The fuck is this about?
Yeah.
So what do you do in the Army? What happened? Tell me to the whole process of the Army.
All right. So I wanted to join the Army ever since I was a kid. Both my grandfathers were in the Army, et cetera, et cetera. But I went the music route. I was not a sports kid at all. Couldn't do it. So I went the music route instead. And then in high school, I had a friend that went to West Point, which is the Army Military Academy up in upstate New York. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I had another friend that did ROTC. I was like, all right, so I have 2 of my best friends that are doing something in the Army. That's cool. Fast forward, I graduate college, and then COVID hits. And I'm like, all right, I'm just kind of twiddling my thumbs, not doing anything. And I saw like an ad pop up on TV. If it was probably the Marines, because they do a lot more advertising. I was like, maybe since I have downtime, I'll look into it. So I looked into it, and I realized that there was an Army Reserves, which is essentially part-time Army. And then I realized there's an Army Reserves band in New York. And I was like, wow, well, that's convenient.
It's oddly specific.
Yeah. Well, I thought the only bands were like the big bands. I was like, I'm not a great trombonist. I didn't practice for like 2 years at that time. So I contacted a recruiting office, and I was like, look, I just kind of want to join the Army at this point. I just want to do something extra cash. I needed health insurance. I'm a freelance worker. You get free tuition and stuff like that. My health insurance is like $100 a month. I mean, fucking can't get better than that.
Mine's 92 a week.
Yeah, well, see. So I was looking into that for health
Plus
insurance, and yeah, I mean, it's great with the Army or military in general. So I talked to the recruiter, and I was like, if I do this, I would like to do the band first. If I don't get it, I might want to try the paralegal route, because that's an easy route. I'm doing legal work right now. So I auditioned for the band, and I told them that I'm a videographer. I told them I was a DJ, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, all right, your trombone playing is decent, but if you know how to do all these other things, we can use that. We can use you in that as well. So they let me join with the trombone. And then I went through basic training, 10 weeks of boot camp. I had to do 10 weeks of the School of Music. Passed both of those, came out March of 2022 from training, and then I jumped right into my band. So once a month, I get to go play my instrument. Again, every year we have to still qualify on our weapons. We still have to qualify with our physical test.
You still go through, like, you went through boot camp and all that, the whole, like any other service member would?
No, yeah. So essentially, like, the people that you think about in the Army are the people that are overseas, right? That are on the front lines doing the
reserves, the people who work at the Army bases on the country. My cousin is in the military. He's stationed in, I think, either South Carolina or San Francisco, but he's just on a military base, like training or doing whatever the fuck he does.
Yeah, so like the people on the front line, like everyone goes through the same basic training because no matter what, you have to be ready to deploy at any point. So everyone goes to the same 10 weeks basic training. After that, you go to your job specific schooling. So if you're going on the front lines, you're probably going to a much more in-depth basic training where you learn more things in depth. And then you have mechanics that go to a mechanic school. You have medics that go to a medic school, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of what they do. And so, yeah, so I went through the same basic training. I have to know how to shoot M4. And every year you have to requalify on that, and you have to requalify for your fitness test, which they've officially just changed it as of 2 days ago. It's when it went into effect, the new Army combat fitness test. So I'll be taking that in about 2 or 3 weeks.
They make it easier or harder?
If you both. So the old one is
how can it be both?
So what they say is it's easier to pass, harder to max. So the original one was you have to do. The original one, you had to do 40 sit-ups in 2 minutes. This is just minimum to pass. So you had to do 40 sit-ups in 2 minutes, 50 sit-ups in 2 minutes, 40 push-ups in 2 minutes, and a 2-mile run in under 16 minutes, 30 seconds.
I can't do
depending on your age. That was my age.
Can't do any of those.
So the new one is 6 events. So that was only 3 events. The new one is 6 events. The first is a deadlift of at least 140 pounds.
Nope.
The second one is you throw a 10-pound ball over your head, and you have to go, I think, 7 meters behind you or something like that.
Nope.
Then the next one is at least 10 push-ups in 2 minutes.
I can do that one. I can do that one.
There you go. And then the next one is it's called the sprint drag carry. You have to sprint 50 meters. You have to drag a 90-pound sled. So you're walking backwards, dragging it for 50 meters. Then you have to do laterals back and forth 50 meters. You have to do 40-pound kettlebells in each hand, 50 meters, and then run again for 50 meters. You have to do that in about 3.5 minutes or less, or 3 minutes or less.
Nope, not me.
A 1.5 minute, yeah, a 1.5 minute plank, and then a 2-mile run in under 22 minutes.
I could probably do the plank and the run.
So you see how I said it's like easier but harder. There's more events.
More things to do, but they're easier to do.
Right. It's like instead of doing 40 push-ups, you have to do 10 push-ups. But again, that's all done within 2 hours. So it's mostly testing you to see if you can make it those 2 hours.
All that to play the trombone, man? Come on now.
Well, hey, your tax dollars pay for it. So, I mean, but I still have to be, you know,
yours.
Right? Yeah. So, yeah, I pay for myself. So it's like a reimbursement for me.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. But
weird.
Yeah. But I mean, right, I still have to be able to get deployed. I still have to be able to do all of these things.
Right, so if you were deployed, you know, God forbid, knock on wood, what would you do? Where would you go? Like, what would happen?
For the band, for the reserve band, most likely I would, from what I've heard, other band units, essentially what they do is they stay with headquarters. So when you're doing military stuff, you have the front lines that are the front lines, and then you have other people behind them, and then you have headquarters in the middle that everyone's protecting. So the front line moves up, everyone moves up, and then headquarters moves up, right? And if the front line gets down, then more people go to the front line, and it just kind of continues like that, where more people go. I would probably be with headquarters, making sure headquarters is safe, because band units are usually meant for morale. And a lot of funerals. If you're overseas, I mean, just imagine how many funerals are happening.
Right.
So
taps ain't gonna play itself.
Well, yeah, they have speakers, but so that's kind of what I would be doing for the most part. But in theory, if something happened, I mean, there were mostly National Guard, but January 6th, there was a lot of band members that were in the National Guard that were called to action on January 6th in DC. So it depends where you are, and National Guard gets deployed more than the reserves do. Reserves are, like, especially my units, mostly for, like, I do parades in New York City all the time, Veterans Parade, St. Patty's Parade, stuff like that. So we're mostly for morale of the country and stuff like that. National Guard is a lot of protection. So there was a lot of people deployed January 6th that were in the band. And you just didn't know it, right? We don't have a special patch we do have a special patch that says band, but it's not very noticeable that you're in the band compared to being in the Army. So.
Oh, they could use a big bass drum as a shield. I'm just saying.
They
Start
could.
pushing people.
I mean, hey,
I used to play
they
drum.
could-
I played drums. I played bass in high school, the big bass drum.
Hell yeah.
You can smash over someone's head. It hurts. It's heavy.
Yeah. Hey, they brought that into battle. I mean, this is where the military band comes from. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Revolutionary
in
War.
battle
The drummers used to be like signals and commands.
and that's exactly
Yeah.
where we come from. Is that so? It's very historic.
It's like you're technically one of
band.
the oldest branches in the military. Then, like one of the oldest regiments. I guess I don't know the terminology.
Yeah, MOS is like the terminology for the description. I guess so. I mean, I never really looked into like the oldest job in the military, but yeah, I guess being on the front line and stuff like that, bands were always there. So